Shields up, Ironbreakers. Rurikhan here, coming at you with another episode of the Kast. I'm here with FightinCowboy to talk about some more Armored Core 6. However, this time you're not the only one who's gotten to play the game, but how are you doing, FightinCowboy?
It's not just Cowboy, okay? It's now Macho Gory and Muscle Pimp Death Machine and the Big Brother in the West. Okay.
I was actually thinking about doing something and then I forgot about it. But this morning, and this is the consequence of sleep deprivation, but this morning I was actually thinking, dude, I need to come up with like a list of nicknames for Cowboy right before the thing. One of the ones that I got that I was like, this one's definitely there. The Butcher of Rubicon.
Oh, God.
The Butcher of Rubicon. The Missile Barrage Man, something like that. I was thinking about coming up with 5 or 6 of those.
All the names Japan has come up with me are my favorite.
Wait, Japan came up with different names for you?
All 3 of those names were things posted on Japanese Twitter that were poorly translated by me. Muscle Pimp Death Machine is probably my favorite. That's up there.
Muscle Pimp Death Machine. I think that my stream, for starters, like I started my stream and I said, listen, guys, we're Team Cowboy, okay? You can go back and you can watch this like from the beginning. And then when the PvP starts, it was just like, oh my God. But before we even get there, how was the trip?
So the trip was good. It actually worked out a little better. I was supposed to fly out earlier. My flight kept getting delayed, and I managed to just move it to Thursday morning, which is great because instead of fighting rush hour traffic, I managed to just scooch to the airport at like 6 a.m., get on the plane, get in, got there. We had like basically practice for a day, making sure we were all set up. That was like an all-day event, and then after that, Friday was like the big day. But what worked out is so we get there, and it's just like Steam 01, Steam 02. Hang on, let me close the door real fast.
Yep.
But so we're doing this event, and there's like 100,000 credits, and like almost no parts unlocked, and I'm like,
oh crap!
And they hand me a list, and like, here are the parts that we're allowed to use. And I'm like, okay, these are all pretty early parts, but we're still talking like 3-4 million credits worth of parts. And I'm just
and you only have 100,000. Guys had to grind?
Yeah. But so I did like one grind mission, and I'm like, hey, can I just like pull up my save? And they're like, yeah, as long as you're using legal parts. I'm like, Steam, log out. Steam, log in. Load game. Turn off cloud save. Sold everything I wasn't allowed to use and already had my emblem and all my ACs, and then I just like turned them into poverty versions of what I was already running. I was like, I'm ready to go. Let's rock and roll.
Everybody else was grinding.
Everyone else was grinding, and I'm just sitting there tweaking builds and doing arenas, and like occasionally like somebody would be like, okay, let's do some PvP. I'm like, okay, but everything was ready. So in terms of practice and experience, I definitely had a major advantage there over the competition because,
it's just funny to me that nobody actually thought like, oh yeah, you can use all of these parts if you can buy them with 100,000 credits, because that's actually not a whole lot. For anyone that hasn't played the game, 100,000 credits is like nothing. It's like you can maybe get a cheap weapon, like a starter weapon, a really bad one.
It's like half the cost of a pair of light legs.
Yeah, that's not
a lot.
Good.
It's not a lot.
But one of the things that I thought was very interesting was when I was watching the event is like everybody in the stream was really enjoying, because a lot of times you'll have companies, they'll do like those hyper pre-produced things with 3 camera angles and all of this nonsense, and it feels like in there just like there's a green screen and there you go. That's it. There's like green screens on a couple of different spots. We put some Armored Core background and we're done. And it felt like it was a really well organized community event. Like you've been to a bunch of these. How did you feel about this?
This was Bandai's. So they have a new setup for stuff like this. Like they have 2 streaming rooms, and then the production room, and then the stage. And this was their first time using all that stuff. And I'd say it went incredibly well.
It was very good. And
initially, there was
one of the best ones that I've seen.
Yeah, well, there wasn't nearly as much. Like when we started doing the dry run. Initially, it was going to be like 2 rounds of PvP, and then that quick little interview where Vampy like asked me what players can expect and asked Oro what players can expect. And then we did the dry run, and they were like, "All right, we're under time for this." And I'm like, "Listen, just let us PvP for like an hour, because people have seen no PvP and they're gonna want this." And they're like, "Okay, I guess we can do that." And so we did like a full best of 3, and then a little break, and then a full best of 3, and then the 1v1 wasn't planned, so that was just like spur of the moment. They were like, I guess they just needed more time and chat wanted it, so we jumped into the 1v1. But I am surprised. I figured we were going to do like a best of 3, and instead it was just the 2 rounds of me being a tank bully. And then they were like, well, that's it. And I'm just like, damn, that was a rough way to end it. But it was a lot of fun though.
It's like, to me, it tells a lot that they were confident enough in the event where they're just like, let's just go off script. Let's just do a 1v1. Let's see how the hosts handle that and all that stuff. Because a lot of people don't understand that usually these types of events are much more scripted and much more like closed off. It's like, okay, you're going to play for 20 minutes. Then we're going to swap and do this and do that. And it just feels like they were much more dynamic with this.
Well, we were all the content people there, like AC Legacies, me, Oro, we were pushing, because initially there was like almost no banter, and I'm like, listen, people are gonna want banter. They're gonna want some shit talk. And then just for the sake of it, me and Cleric, that the other big boy I was with, we started just like pushing stuff in. They're like, what do you have to say? We had tank go boom, and I think we just started like adding stuff in. So we definitely had a lot of fun with it. It was a good trip overall.
Yeah, it was a good time. And yeah, Oru got a little bit bullied after that. It seems like I've seen some weird tweets.
Oh my god, the internet they were relentless on the poor guy.
I called it, like, as it was happening. I was like, dude, this is gonna people. I was even telling people, listen, don't be that guy, okay? That you're gonna be bringing this up months from now, or even like immediately after, and saying, "Ooh, Oru bad." And I was like, no, because it was such a good show.
So what's crazy to me is, so I've told you before, my Armored Core experience started with 5. Yeah. I was extensively in 5 in Verdict Day. I was like the first guide I ever wrote. Managed a PvP clan back then. We were really good. We held multiple territories in the US for like 6 months before we were like, all right, nobody's touching us. Let's wrap it up. And then like since then, I've gone back and I've played some of the other games, but my experience is still relatively new. Whereas I know Oro's played much longer than me. But despite that, for some reason, the community developed this, like, I don't know, almost lore that like I am this like long-term Raven that's played forever, and that Oro's like, it was my fault franchise. And I'm like Oro's played longer than me, but like, I mean, I'm not gonna turn down free PR, I guess. But then despite that, we go into the PvP. And I had a phenomenal showing, and people are like, "Oh, fuck yeah, Cowboy! He's that Raven, Cowboy." I mean, I guess it speaks for itself.
It was my fault, because the first podcast that we did, like, I put in the title "Series Veteran Fighting Cowboy."
Probably
it's my fault. No, but it was funny.
When in 5 and Verdict Day, I was the guy.
Yeah,
I was doing all that stuff. I was our operator. I was, the one designing our bases, the one planning our wars, the one, checking everyone's loadouts. Like I knew that game top to bottom. But the older ones I hadn't done as much with, just because jank controls for 1 through 3.
It was funny to me because there were a bunch of people in that first podcast that went into the comment section like, Cowboy actually doesn't know what he's talking about. So, I bet those people are really fucking quiet right about now.
Dude, I feel almost everything I had like even theorized before launch ended up like coming to fruition. Like, how Hardlock wasn't going to be this like game breaking thing. How there was going to be some type of penalty or something. How it's Armored Core through and through. This isn't a Souls game. And of course now it's like about to come out, and people are like, oh wow, this is Mecha
Monster Hunter. I told you.
It is not Mecha.
Listen, there's something in the game called a log hunt. Okay.
No, stop. I swear to God.
I'm joking. Like that's when I sent you that message on Discord, was when I unlocked some feature that said
I saw your message and I was like, what the fuck is he talking about? I swear to God.
It's something unlocking the game. It says like log in, and I was like, remember when I told you? It's just like monster. It's nothing like that at all, guys. But whatever. It's something that I thought was funny. How many hours did you have in the game before you went to that event, though?
About 50. Just
okay, that's good.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even like mean to, and then I was alt tabbing to check Discord, and like my Steam showed up for half a second. Everyone's like, "Cowboy has 53 hours played." Cowboy's. I'm just like, well, I guess the fucking cat's out the bag.
So, at this point, you finished the game, right? You were telling me that you're already going through like New Game Plus and stuff.
Plus, correct.
How many hours would you say would it be for people to kind of like beeline the campaign? Also doing arenas though, because so that you get the functionality.
So my initial set of recordings. Now, given this was basically missions in arenas with very little customization. A lot of customization was off record, and I'd tweak it, and then I would be like, "Hey, here's what we ended up coming up with. Let's jump back in."
It's pretty much the same way that I'm doing my own.
Yeah. So that wrapped up at probably about 16 and a half hours, right around
16?
then. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But that was just strictly mission recording time. I mean, if you add in farming for parts and mech customization, your realistic time is going to be much closer to probably 20 to 25. I mean, my emblem alone, that took about 2 hours. And given this is just getting the campaign, this isn't going through and finding parts. This isn't hunting down the stuff for the logs and the missions, the log targets. There's a lot more. Like I hit the let me check Steam at. So now I'm at 74 hours played, and I only started New Game Plus after roughly 70 hours. And the only reason I even started is because I was at the point where I had combed through all the missions on my first playthrough. I had scanned them. I had literally all the logs I could get. I have a check mark on every single mission. The only thing left for me to do would be like S rank push, which that's more of like, I'd rather do that on stream anyway.
Yeah. Makes more sense.
So then I started New Game Plus to try and find more parts.
Yeah, I think I'm actually already over that playtime. Not just recorded playtime, obviously, but like this, because I keep going back to missions. So like, say for instance, I'll do a mission and I'll be like, oh, I feel like that went terrible. Like my build was not good. So it's not necessarily I want to redo it. It's like I want to figure out the puzzle. Like what would be the parts that I would use in order to actually do this much easier. And I'll go back and I'll redo it like off camera and stuff. And that will probably have pushed me over at least close to 30 hours by now.
Yeah, there's definitely, well, especially once you start going for S ranks.
And I'm sorry, but just for reference, at this point, like you estimated that I'm about halfway through the game, give or take. So I'm still not even close to the end.
Well, so chapter 1 is fairly standard. It gets up to the Balteus fight. And then chapter 2, another one that's kind of standard, and that was the spider. And then chapter 3.
Don't reveal too much now. I don't want to be going into spoiler territory.
This is stuff that was in trailers, but people have seen the spider. People have seen Balteus.
Yeah. And the sweeper too. People have seen the sweeper.
Yeah, people have seen the sweeper. And then I want to say chapter 3 was on about the same. I'm trying to remember if it was, I don't know, it was either 3 or 4, but one of the chapters is like triple the length of the other ones. So all of a sudden,
I think it's probably 3. Yeah, I think because 3 does feel longer than the other ones for sure.
Yeah, because I remember the other 2. I was looking at like roughly 6 to 7 episodes per chapter, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm at 10 plus episodes, and this chapter is still going. And then obviously once you start getting to the branching paths, that's where it gets interesting. So to explain this without spoiling, the way it works is eventually you're going to get, say, 2 missions, and it could be one is for Balaam Industries and one is for Arquebus, and there's a little icon that's like, it's like a line and then 2 squiggles.
It's almost like a USB icon.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like a USB icon. And this indicates like you are choosing a path. You're choosing to ally with Balaam, or you're choosing to ally with Rubicon or Arquebus, or whatever the case is. And you're not necessarily stuck with that because my playthrough, I initially went kind of towards Arquebus because, you know, got to represent my boy Rusty. And then Arquebus did some shit, and I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. And then I ended up kind of realigning with Rubicon. And so depending on the paths you get, not only is that playthrough locked into certain missions, and you won't see those choices again until New Game Plus, but your final boss changes.
Interesting.
Because when me and Aura were talking, and I was like, yeah, final boss, and I couldn't believe blah blah blah, and he's like, wait, what did you say? And I was like, blah 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 blah, and he's like, that's not who I fought at all. And I'm like, what? And he's like, I fought blah blah blah, and I'm like, what? And so we had completely different chapter 5 experiences.
There's definitely massive like replayability there to get different bosses and stuff like that. Okay, that's good to know. I've done my first choice, and I actually did it by accident because when I saw the little USB symbol and it clearly says there's a choice to be made here, I thought the choice was going to be inside the mission. They're going to give you like two objectives and you choose.
Like, because I had a mission where I went to ambush somebody, and he was like, you know, don't kill me, I'll pay you more money. And I was like, okay. And then a different dude came out. And so I thought those were the choices. But those choices, you can just replay the mission and see both. Whereas the actual branching, those are the paths. But there is interesting stuff, like New Game Plus, the really early mission where you're with Balaam and the two enemies. On New Game Plus, I was going through that, and I had intercepted comm come in. And they're like, this is the Rubicon Liberation Front. We don't know what they're paying you, but we'll double it. Kill them. And I'm like, that's cool.
Oh, wait. So that changes the starting mission because that's like in chapter 1 still.
That's like mission 3 or 4. Yeah. And I didn't do it because I'm like, I'm going to save this for stream to see how. Because I think that might, it doesn't have the decision icon. It's a mid-mission decision, but I think that might. Because if I'm doing that, it wouldn't make sense that I'm going to help take the wall. So I think that might put me on an entire different story path. So I'm going to save that for release and stream.
So there's quite a few more complexity to the branching paths than I initially thought. I thought it was going to be more like, now that I know how it works, which by the way, guys, when you do see that choice symbol, the mission that you choose to do, that is the choice that you've made instantly right there.
Yeah. What I did is I'd watch both briefings and then I decided over there.
Yeah, that would have been what I would have done had I known that that's how it worked.
Well, what's interesting is sometimes, like initially I was like, well, I'm going to take there was one, it was like, do this, we're going to pay you a ton of money. And there was one that was like, we can't pay you much, but you should do this. And I'm like, you know what? I guess I'll take the less money one. Why not? I'm feeling for these people.
Feeling generous.
And then the follow-up was like double what the other high-paying mission was. I was like, oh, okay. I see you had the real funds. You were just waiting. Okay.
But I still can't believe that you would choose to go with Arquebus when you have Balaam. Dude, come on. Like,
but Rusty is he's your homie.
But the way the guy does, I think he's gun 6 or whatever. The way he does the briefing's just so good. Gun 13. It's just like super military.
That's gun 1. That's Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan. I like Michigan a lot, but a lot of the other guns, like the interesting thing about Balaam is like half the guns are like reformed criminals or criminals that like got stuck serving Balaam. So a lot of them are dicks. Like G5 Iguaza.
Listen,
that guy.
Why don't you start a sewing club and
some of that damn mouth of yours shut. Yeah, Michigan is definitely one of the best characters.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. That's why I'm like, dude, I love the way that Balaam does their friggin' briefings, because everybody else is like, oh, we got to do this thing. They're like, gun 13.
He's legit one of the hardest. Obviously he's an arena. Pretty much everybody you meet, there's an arena version.
There's an arena for them.
Yeah, Michigan is, I would say, like when I'm like really testing a build, Michigan is what I want to square up against. He's one of the harder ones to fight for sure.
I probably haven't gotten there yet. I'm still on like rank B or something.
Oh, he's tier 2 in the arena, but I feel like he should be tier 1 because the tier 1 guy I body. But Michigan always claps cheeks.
There's definitely some builds in the arena where I feel like, oh man, I struggled with this one, and then the other immediately after, I'll just like completely destroy them, pile bunker them to death, and it's like, oh, you actually didn't do anything.
Have you fought Chatty Stick yet?
Yes, it was not easy.
You're like, still, come over here. And he's just like, he just keeps zipping behind shit. You're like,
And he's just constantly like throwing rockets in the air. And because I got tank threads, I'm like a huge footprint for aerial weaponry. It's like, no, it's like, no, stop that.
Yeah, Chatty's pretty fucking annoying. I actually have a build that's like that. So I guess we can kind of talk builds. So the build that I used at the event, the double gat tanks, it's strong, but I took the double gats, I put it on Chatty's little wheelchair tank, and then I put laser shotguns on. It's so fucking annoying because it's basically what I had at the event, but like twice as fast. And when stuff gets staggered, I'm just like push with the shotguns.
Dude, I still haven't gotten myself to use the wheelchair tank legs. I'm like, I look at those and I'm like, that's not real tank legs. Come on, man.
It's so fast.
It's so freaking
fast. You can't have the mega loadout. Like I still have like the beefy boy that I use right now has an explosive throw. That thing from the trailer where you just see like a volley of explosions go out. It has that. It has the detonating bazooka, which when it hits does like a big explosion and builds stagger, and then it has the double upgraded grenade launchers, the ones that go after Songbird. And so that just staggers really fast, and then it's like for like 2/3 of your health. And he's pretty beefy. But the thing is, like doing a very heavy explosive build like that, you need to you're doing a lot of kicks. You're staying on targets constantly because otherwise you're not really, like the slower velocity on that stuff isn't hitting. So you need to be like hyper aggressive and on top of stuff. But when it works, it is devastating.
That's usually the way that I play. Like I'm always right on top of them, just like completely running over, kicking. I didn't even understand at the beginning how kicking worked until I started experimenting with the OS chips that you get from Arena and stuff, because I was like, I don't know what any of this is. And then I started.
It's the same. I started quick boot, or I tried to quick turn at the start, and I'm like, this seems like a regular turn. And then once you actually unlock quick turn, you're like, oh, okay, it's like an instant 180.
I haven't even unlocked quick turn yet. there's a lot of stuff.
Did you
the thing was like, because the first thing that I unlocked, I went and I was like, oh, I want this terminal armor thing, because you get to stay alive after you reach 0 HP. Sounds really good. But, in reality, I actually don't think that thing is amazing right then. Like, I guess maybe for the occasional arena where you're right up against the ropes, but the enemy's against the ropes as well, it can make the difference. But usually terminal armor is not the most useful thing. But when I got terminal armor, you have to put it on the expansion thing. So I just immediately assumed that everything in there was an expansion thing. So I was like, well, I'm using terminal armor, so I don't need to get anything else.
So a couple things for OS. Assault armor is busted because it can destroy projectiles.
That's what I'm using. That's what I'm using right now.
Pulse armor can also be incredibly good, mainly because it's a stagger reset. So if you're like about to staggered or you are staggered, you can pop pulse armor and completely wipe your bar clean. So it's a good oh shit button. Pulse barrier is just straight garbage. It's like, that's the one where it creates a dome, and that dome is going to protect you. But I mean, the only real thing I can see of it is like maybe you use the dome and then somebody gets aggro and they try to fly into the dome after you, and then you hit them with like a bunch of grenades at blank range. Terminal, honestly, it's a PvE thing. I think it's there to prevent you from getting insta-gibbed by a boss. Because in PvP, if I see terminal armor, I'm like, oh, you're dead in 2 seconds. Because it's 20,000 AP, but only for 2 seconds. So every time I'd see terminal armor go off, I would just fire some plasma missiles, and by the time they made contact, terminal armor was down and you were dead. The other thing is in PvP, you only get one use. So even though in campaign you can have 3 assault armor, 2 pulse armor, 1 terminal armor, it's all single use in PvP.
Oh, okay.
So I'd recommend unlocking at least one of assault, 1 of pulse.
The thing, and I'm going to be making a video on this, it might even be out by the time that this podcast goes out, is like there's a lot of stuff in there that's actually passive that people need to pay attention to. You got to see which ones are expansion, which ones are passive, because that's why I didn't have boost kick for so long, because I thought like, oh, this is something that I'm going to have to install in the expansion thing so that I can get a kick. But no, it's a basic functionality. You enable it, then you get kick, and kick. Well, so
you can if you hit the tab, you can tab and break down like mechanical upgrades, expansion upgrades, passive upgrades. and I would recommend getting most of the, like, I don't think new players need to worry about purge. Purge is definitely more of an advanced late thing, because the thing with purge, so when your weapon's out of ammo anyway, it's going to purge. So the real benefit of purge is, let's say you sortie in overloaded, like you're bringing in, I don't know, double. The thing is, it's so hard to find a circumstance. I guess if you were running like double gats and double grenade launchers and a biped, you could sortie in and be like, I'm fighting something fast, the grenades aren't going to hit, let's purge those off, and then I'll focus on using my gats instead. But it's such a specific use case that I would not recommend it for most new players. Manual aim, no. Unless you are a gamer god, manual aim. The only use case I've seen for manual aim so far is free aiming grenade shots and counting on the AoE splash to hit stuff. Because the way manual aim works is it is a pure manual aim. It's like playing like War Thunder or something. Your shots have zero tracking, there's zero FCS assist. It goes where you fire. Yeah. And so especially on a controller, that ain't happening.
Yeah, when I saw manual aim, I was like, this is probably going to be more for mouse and keyboard than anything else, because controller on this is going to be damn near impossible. Yep. But yeah, there's a lot of nifty little things in there. Even though I keep missing my melee attacks with the pile bunker, I still maxed out melee damage. Dude,
I maxed out.
It just feels so good though when you do land it. It just feels so good. You can't beat it.
I went for direct hit damage because I figured that was going to help all the builds. So I maxed out direct hit first, and
great minds think alike. I did that too.
And then once I had more OS chips, I went for kinetic, usually because I was just relying on GATs as my go-to, my stagger machine for bosses.
Yeah. I also rely a lot on GATs, but I didn't put that much on kinetic specifically to force myself to avoid falling back to GATs. Like, basically, if you see me in a mission running double GATs, it's basically me being, okay, I'm sick of your shit. I'm going to murder you now. That's it. That's what's happening. When I'm running dual GATs, is like, I'm sick of this nonsense. I'm brute forcing this boss. I don't care.
Well, just from a PvE perspective, I'd say like one of my best builds was just dual GATs, Songbird, and Pile Bunker, which is, it's a super early build, but I would, I'd dual GAT something into the Stagger, occasionally throw in a Songbird to help build up. And then when they were staggered, I would go for Pile Bunker into a Songbird follow-up. And that consistently, in PvP, most of the time that probably ain't going to work that well, but for PvE, it's a phenomenal loadout.
So I'm actually curious because I haven't tested this out. The thing that you're talking about, you have Pile Bunker on on your shoulders, so you're using the loadout swap, whatever it's called, the unlock thing. I haven't unlocked that yet because usually I'm running double missiles on the shoulders always. But like, how does that work? Do you actually need, I have to swap into Pile Bunker, or do you press the button and it swaps instantly and then swaps back?
So all it really does is it just allows you to have weapons on your shoulder slots. So in my case, I have, like I said, Pile, Songbird, Gat. And then what's going to happen is when you press the left bumper, instead of using the Pile Bunker, it's going to rotate that into your main hand.
And then you have to shoot it.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm approaching with Gats when they get to like 90% stagger. I'm rotating out the bunker.
Finish off with the right weapon.
Yeah, finish with the right charge, bunker hit, Songbird follow up, swap back to GAT, and continue the assault.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That's kind of like what I expected, which is something that I'm like, I still wouldn't be too comfortable doing that at this point in the game. I need more practice.
Honestly, get that unlock and practice, because swapping to melee is the way to go, 100%.
Yeah,
it's super good.
I agree, because a lot of the times, like, I want to have the Pile Bunker, but I also feel like, God, this is such a disadvantage, because like, kill these 100 MTs along the way, and I'm like, this Pile Bunker is just sitting here doing nothing.
No, yeah, because that's the thing. The cooldown on the Pile Bunker is long enough that you don't, you're saving it. You want to save it for the direct hit. You don't want to just, happy-go-lucky use it every time, because then if you use it and they are staggered, you're like, well, now I can't get my fucking big hit. Now I'm stuck just gunning them.
Who would ever do that? Couldn't be me. I would not. Like, I'll fire off Pile Bunker by mistake.
Oh God, yeah, you need to unlock the swap. You needed to unlock the swap like yesterday.
I thought you were going to say you need to unlock the special OS cartridge that says "Gig Good" or something like that.
Well, the other thing too, so once you get the swap, you can run dual melee. Melee is still left hand only, but
Yeah.
for example, you could have Pulse Blade, which you've seen. Pulse Blade will do a shit ton of stagger. So you run that, you run like a melee booster or something, and like a gat or a pistol or something that's going to do decent stagger.
Yeah.
And you could boom, boom with the Pulse Blade, get that stagger bar up to like 75%, fire off some missiles, start gatting, pull out the pile bunker, hit the follow up direct hit.
Yeah, that's
'Cause I have
that
a-
sound. Yeah,
yeah.
that's exactly what I would do. Yeah, I agree.
I have a build that's melee that goes Pulse Blade, and then it uses the lance thing we've seen in the trailers.
Oh, I haven't
And
unlocked
so-
that one yet.
Yeah, it comes a little bit later, but that's really fun. It has the same as the Pulse Blade. It's like a lot of forward momentum on it. So I'll Pulse Blade, Laser Lance, Pulse Blade, Laser Lance, and just it's a hyper melee build that chases people down with just constantly in your face.
It's just, to me, it feels like in a lot of situations, because I'm basically brute forcing a lot of the game, like we've been talking. I've been brute forcing a lot of the game with tank treads, and it feels like in a lot of situations the melee is not really the way to go for tank. But I'm still doing it because I'm an idiot.
I'm mostly biped on my melee builds, but on certain bosses, that same setup I described, the Songbird dual gap pile bunker, I would just slap it onto a tetrapod. And what I would do is I'd go into hover, start gatting them down. And then when I got to that same window, since I was already on top of them, and I'd swap to the bunker, all I would do is kill my hover, start charging, and my guy just drops and he punches him right in the face. And does it actually aim the bunker down? No, it still does an uppercut, but you're like right on top of him. And so when you kill the hover and then start charging, you're just falling and then boom every time. And I found that if you're struggling with getting in with the biped, that's a good alternative, because the hover drop hit is very consistent in terms of its ability to connect.
It's just like there's so many friggin' different play styles that every time that I swap legs, I'm like, no, I just want to go back to tank. But I do feel like there are some situations where tank gets really unwieldy because of the momentum and the turning and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's times where I've been like boosting to keep up on stuff, and I have the stagger, and I'm like, wait, no, stop, and I'll just
keeps going.
Yeah, I'll zip past them, and then my grenades will hit like some kind of structure, and I'm like, fuck, I need you to turn around. But even the boost, it's like it's like a big boy trying to like move in a chair. He's like trying to spin around, and yeah, I mean,
it does have
tank's
some
good, but it
has some situations where it just feels like, like say you're sideways and you press forward, it almost feels like there's a 50-50 chance that you're going to actually go forward or backwards.
I've had, I don't even know what I do to cause it, but I've had some where I'm like trying to retreat in the tank, and I like flip around and my tank's just going in reverse, and I'm like, wait, what the hell? This is my ass end. Why? And then you like hit assault boost, and it's like zoom, zoom, and it flips around and then jets off.
Yeah, it's weird. What I've gotten used to doing a lot is just constantly doing the quick boost, and that will usually kind of like rotate you in the direction that you want to go. But whenever you don't have the energy or whatnot, you get super vulnerable in there, I find. But yeah, it's like that's most of what I've been playing. That's why I keep bringing up the tank treads, because I've barely touched any of the other ones, with the exception of tetrapods on some random mission that had invisible enemies that were annoying as hell. But yeah. So I wanted to ask you, how'd you like the story? Because the story hasn't super grabbed me yet. But like I said, I'm still like halfway through.
You're early. You're super early. By like chapter 4, the story starts getting like, ooh, what's happening? And by chapter 5, you're like, fucking spoiler city. Like, I would say for an Armored Core game, I think this blew other stories out of the water. Especially the branching path, and like you start to get favorites. There's certain ACs and certain people and NPCs that you really kind of get attached to. And then like I'll say this, I had made what I would consider like a mental alliance with one person, and then they were going to do some shit, and I was tasked like, you need to betray this person. And I'm like, I don't want to, but I have to. I can't.
Oh, that sucks.
I can't abide with what they're doing. I have to kill them. And
wait, but were you given the choice?
Yeah.
Oh, so you were straight up given the okay, that's cool. Because I thought that they were just like, oh, here's a mission, go betray this guy. But no, they gave you a choice.
No, it was continue helping person who's been your ally or betray them knowing they're doing something that's war crimey. It's like, well, like
Okay, that is cool. That they're doing that type of stuff for the story is very interesting.
I'm gonna have to fucking betray him, I guess. And then of course there's dialogue like, oh, blah,
As
blah,
he's
blah,
dying or
true color.
something.
Yeah. There's oh, it's so fucking good, dude.
Okay, so it's good to know that they've been.
I wish you were through it so we could do like an actual spoiler cast and talk.
I mean,
about stuff.
we'll do one of those when I'm through the story. But
I haven't talked about this stuff with anyone really because everyone's still, even the people that have had it early. Most people are still getting through the story, and I have a lot of fucking discussion I want to have about my playthrough, and like there's just no one I can talk to about it yet.
I'm sorry, I'll try to be faster at finishing. The problem is
get good, Ruri, come on.
No, it's not even about getting good because like you remember how I told you about the spider, right? I beat her not exactly on the first try, right? But it was on the first time that I went through the mission. I beat the spider. Like I was in there and I reloaded checkpoint, I don't know, 4 or 5 times, something like that, and I beat her. But then I spent, I don't know, maybe 3-4 hours testing out different loadouts.
Did you get the stealth mission yet?
The stealth mission. I think I did.
There's
the one
a mission
where you can't be the
in chapter 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you do that with a tank?
Yes. I was so sneaky. They never saw me coming. And listen, it wasn't just with the tank, okay? It was with a tank, and I had the pile bunker, and on the other arm, I had a pulse rifle with 90 shots. So I had to kill everybody with missiles. So it's like, I'm the sneakiest tank in the world, and there's like 10 missile barrages coming in to every enemy. It was perfect.
That's pretty ridiculous, yo. That mission got me a couple times at first. I was like, these motherfuckers are everywhere. The cameras.
No, it was I actually did it fairly easily. I think it was like on my 3rd attempt, I got pretty much everything.
I mean, I just swapped to something that was quick and was like, zip, 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 zip.
No. Because the thing
that was a tricky one to go back through because I went through with a tetrapod and killed literally everything on the level, trying to find the battle logs.
Yeah, there was a log there that I picked up. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing about that mission too was that crap. I lost it. I was going to say something that I did in that mission. I forgot what it was because you're making fun of me playing the tank. Oh, no, I know. The thing about that mission was that right before that mission, I had unlocked an FCS, and I wasn't sure how I was going to go through that mission, but the FCS that I unlocked had longer range. It was like the best long-range FCS that I had found so far, but it was complete crap at close combat. But then I was like, well, I'm going to test this one out just out of curiosity. And I was like, that's really good because I can fire missiles and they don't even see them coming. It's fantastic.
Yeah, plasma rifles are honestly one of my favorite for PvE.
The big one?
Well, the explosion that they make is really solid. Like if you could, lock on an MT from like 300 meters and that hit, the explosion that's generated is usually enough to kill them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're very solid PvE weapons for sure.
But it's like, which one are you talking about? Because I'm talking about the big beefy one that almost looks like a grenade launcher.
I mean, I use that one, and then the one that you unlocked, I find that one better.
Oh, okay, the one that I found on that dude, it was. Yeah. I can't get into that mission, but let's just say I found that as the bad stuff was happening. It's like complete chaos around me. I'm like, oh, there's treasure over there. Let me go get that real quick.
Yeah,
AC's burning, this getting smashed to pieces. I'm like, there's treasure.
Yeah, it's tricky because I remember going through it and I'm like, huh? And I just start going, opposite direction of the indicators, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll take this. This is nice.
Yeah, no, I found that. It's so funny. We're being very vague because we don't want to spoil stuff for you. Because that mission I thought was actually pretty cool because you're just like, oh, go do this basic thing, and then oh crap, this thing happened. Weird.
Yeah, I definitely. Yeah, it was rough.
There's a lot of surprises in the game. Basically, is what we're saying, and I think that is it's a very good thing. How'd you feel about the mission variety? so
I liked
far.
it. I mean, we had defense missions, we had assault missions, we had uh, fewer like fight missions than I thought, but I think the arena helps to offset that.
Yeah.
Um, some of the missions honestly are so big that I'm just combing through, just hit and scan on cooldown, like where are the chests, where are the chests, where are the
I mean,
chests.
but the thing though is they're big in terms of map size. Because the
Yeah.
mission itself, you can do it in a couple of minutes. Most missions I found are fairly short.
Oh
if you're
yeah, have
sticking
you? I
with the
mean, well,
objectives.
like I said, even like I started New Game Plus today, and I blitzed through to Chapter 3 in probably under an hour, maybe 30 minutes. But this was like I was beelining objectives. I knew how to kill the bosses. I knew everything, so I was able to just fly through it, just blowing stuff up.
Or were the treasures do you have to do treasures in New Game Plus or no?
Not on the same missions, but on if you take alternate routes,
if you
there's
take
probably new
alternate routes,
treasures.
New
But I'm
treasures.
not there yet. I'm just at now Chapter 3, and I think the first decision is either Chapter 3 or Chapter 4.
It's Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is where you get the first decision for sure. But yeah, I found that the missions themselves, just how fast you can go through them was a huge asset. Because like I seem to remember thinking about, oh man, it'd be great to have like these long 1 hour missions. But then it's like, oh, but then if you fail and you want to actually redo the mission, you're going through this big 1 hour slog. That's actually not a good thing, especially because I'd be like, oh, I want to try out a different loadout in this mission. And you can get pretty fast back to the place that you were at. And even in missions where there was just like a little bit of an inconvenience in between checkpoints, I was like, God damn it, so many enemies that I have to kill. It's like, forget about.
Well, I mean,
long missions. Short missions is the
even
way to go.
086 is huge. And when they asked me to do that at the showcase, I was like, well, like,
oh yeah, the mission that you did, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, what do you want me to do here? Because like this, there's there are I think like 4 or 5 chests in that mission alone, and I'm like, I didn't want to show off.
2.
Yeah, there's a lot there. The battle log, I think there's like 6 or 7 battle logs in that mission. It's huge, and they're like, well, we don't want you showing off hidden stuff, so I had to like fight stuff that wasn't hidden stuff, and of course that takes me past like the double MTs, which is a pretty hard encounter. And then you have the MT with the bombs and all the enemies on the bridge. Like there was so much shit I didn't have to fight. I'm like, I'm running out of fucking ammo here, man.
Dude,
I was not set for this.
It was really funny though, was that after you did the dual MTs, you had no health.
Yeah, I had nothing. And I'm like, well, I guess we're doing it with nothing.
But the thing was, watching that, like, I feel like everybody was on the edge of their seat. Like, I definitely was. I was like, oh, is it now? Is he going to die now? Like, everybody was, when's he going to die? And you're running around with, like, at one point, I think you had 50 AP left, and you're just like, going through. I was like, what are you doing? That stuff was hilarious. Because, again, see, stuff like that makes for a good show, and that's why I said at the time that show was really, really good. So there was some discussion earlier on about the visuals for Hardcore 6.
No, I'm not. That was fucking idiot.
So how do you feel about the visuals now that you've played the whole game?
The visuals are great. And
you've been playing for context, by the way. You've been playing on PC, right? Yeah.
I've been playing 4K 120 FPS. And I also think from a context perspective that entire video was disingenuous because Kast wasn't the one who even played the game. Rick was the one that came to the event. So they sent Rick to the event. Rick played it. Kast took the footage to make the video. For some reason, never mentioned that, Rick went out to the event, kind of played it off as his own footage, and then proceeded to spend a bunch of the video talking about how the game looks outdated and the graphics suck.
I thought that was weird because even through, at the time I hadn't played the game, even through YouTube compression and all of the other nonsense that videos go through when they actually end up on YouTube, I was like, this footage looks great. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. Not everything needs to be unreal. And now that I've actually played it, and by the way, I'm not even playing the PC version, I'm playing PS5. And the game runs like silky smooth, 60 FPS. Yeah. It's probably not running 4K because I'm running a performance mode. But I think it's probably 1440p, maybe even a little bit higher.
Yeah,
and
probably 1440, 60. Yeah.
Yeah, and it friggin' runs super smooth. The one thing that I notice is that, you have those, the intro sequences. I think that they're giving you more resolution and slowing down the frame rate. But once it gets into gameplay, I haven't had any noticeable performance issue at all. Even when firing
there's
like
rockets and shit going off
20,
all over. Yeah.
20 at the point that I have like 2 10-cell launchers. I spam those literally every fight, no problem, no issue. Big cell explode. The Balthius fight where he's just like friggin' bullet hell missiles, no issues, no problem whatsoever, completely flawless. I think the game looks friggin' gorgeous.
I'll be surprised if they end up having a presence in Armored Core at all, to be honest, because there was recently some drama where I guess it wasn't covered on the Baldur's Gate subreddit that they were trying to like vote suppress and only push their guides up. So the Baldur's Gate subreddit has officially blacklisted Fextra from posting any information there. And there was a discussion that the Armored Core subreddit might be following suit.
Oof. Damn.
We'd fuck around and find out, you know? Like,
that's weird. But yeah, basically it was just so that people get an idea on our thoughts on visuals and the animations. I thought everything's pretty freaking solid.
The game's fucking beautiful. It runs great. You know, I've been playing on Steamdeck and the settings at default are high, and I average probably 50 FPS.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. I didn't know that you had been trying it out on Steam Deck, so it runs really well on Steam Deck then. No issues. Okay, good.
Played it the whole way out there on Steam Deck. You don't need online mode. It's fucking great.
Okay, good stuff. I've been playing pretty much offline as well. How'd you feel about the sounds while we're at it? Just to get like a full technical breakdown.
Good.
The pile bunker.
Good.
The pile bunker.
The meatiness of that hit, the clang of steel versus steel, like whoever was doing their sound design, they fucking nailed it.
Yeah.
Because like the pile bunker hits, they sound so just chunky.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh.
Yeah, that's what like the first. I'm probably gonna make a short of the first time I landed the pile bunker because it was just so. Like, oh yeah, just freaking take that.
Yeah,
and you see like a big chunk of health go down, just like chunk. You're just like yeah.
Yeah, pile bunker is very satisfying. Even all the guns have been satisfying. The sounds, the you know, the music has been fucking phenomenal.
The music
boss fights, you're like you're just getting into it and vibing.
The music is actually something that gives me a very because like they muffle the soundtrack like purposefully. So it's like it's already very heavy because it's got almost that Blade Runner feel to it in a lot of ways that you get into trailers and stuff. But on top of it, when you're in missions and the music is playing, they kind of muffle it and it feels super oppressive. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it gives you a very oppressive vibe. And I was like, man, I got what you're doing. But sometimes like I'll play for, I don't know, friggin' 2 hours and I'm like, I need to take a break. I feel like my head is caving in from all the pressure from the soundtrack. So it definitely gives you some vibe.
It's a very different vibe altogether. Because like take Final Fantasy for example, the soundtrack is very front and center in that game.
Yeah.
The opera vocals and whatnot, they're booming over everything else to really propel the moment forward. And like you said, it's more suppressed almost in this game. Like it's there. But the music's not like it's not overbearing in the way like a Soul soundtrack is overbearing, where it's like, you know, you're fighting a boss and you're just like like it's like, a very different feeling.
You will still feel it come to light when the moment is right, but again, it just to me in a lot of ways it feels very oppressive, and I feel like that's the vibe that they were going for, to really feel like, oh, you're in this big heavy AC and you know there's all these things happening around you, like just kind of pushing onto you in a way. And that's kind of the vibe that I got. It's good. It's effective. But a lot of times I'm like, I need to like chill out for a bit because it gets pretty freaking wild. If I had just one thing that I would point out about the sound, and I think that this is probably the same thing for other ACs, is that during the briefings, I feel that the pauses are a little bit long. You know,
I thought it was really natural. Like, cause I'm very ADD about dialogue, and I start skipping and skipping and skipping. And I felt like people would finish talking and the next person started right up. Like there wasn't any time that I was like skipping through dialogues. I felt they were going too slow.
I don't know. During the briefing specifically, I didn't feel like that. I felt like it could have been a little sped up at points almost, but
maybe it's a console thing. I don't know.
Interesting.
Because PC, they were they were fast. It felt.
Huh. We should compare it. We should compare it at some point. Just like play a briefing or something side by side. Because I definitely feel like there were some long pauses between briefings in my sessions, and I was like, oh, might be because maybe the Japanese there was longer, and then when they did the thing. But I don't know if you're saying that
it's like an internal load happening or something.
It might be that. Yeah. So how's now that you've gotten to experience everything, what's your preferred legs? You gonna betray me? Don't do this, Cowboy. The backstabber of Rubicon.
I mean, I'll always be a tank boy at heart, but honestly,
not like this.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I like them all. I find myself using Tetras a lot. Tetras are like, the thing is, Tetras are so good in this iteration.
It is.
The hover edition, because I always feel like Tetras were kind of this like, I can do lots of things, but like if I was focused on dodging, or if I was focused on ground game, bipeds were better. If I was focused on jumping, reverse joints were better. If I wanted heavier, tanks were better. And tetrapods were like, I'm good at a lot of things, but I don't excel. I mean, yeah, you have like ready stance, I guess, but I just use a fucking tank. And now all of a sudden it's like, I can float in the fucking air. I'm like, that's nice.
I've definitely seen a lot of missions where I'm going through with tank treads and I'm like, man, this would be so much easier if I had a friggin' Tetra.
I mean, a perfect example, like you're fighting Baltius and he goes to do his his ground flamethrower thing. And I'm just like, I float, fuck off.
Same thing.
It's so nice.
Same thing with the sweeper, like when he's coming in with the sweeper.
Yeah, you're like, that's not gonna hit me, you idiot. And you're just shooting in the hole.
With the tank, there's just so many times that I'm like, okay, let's try and let it just like it just like rams into you. And it's like, oh, I can't go left because there's flaming arms. Can't go right because there's flaming arms. What am I gonna do? And he's like,
it's just vomiting lava on top of you, and you're like, I guess I'll die.
Yeah, exactly. I guess I'll just sit here and die because I'm a tank. I don't know. But yeah.
So tetrapods are they are growing probably a lot.
So they're probably your favorite then, the tetrapods right now.
I think out of my various builds, I think my most successful have been tetrapods as well. I think that's part of it.
Okay,
because I have the missile boat. I have a cowboy build with tetrapods. I have when I was struggling on a couple bosses, I took that GAT variant and I changed it to tetrapods and immediately had the clean sweep. I have a laser tetrapod that's just gross. It has double laser cannons and then a heavier laser rifle and then the basic laser rifle. And I just go around just.
That's going to need a very specific generator because I feel like whenever I swap the tetrapod, it starts telling me, "Oh, you don't have enough energy." Oh, because I think tetrapods consume more energy than the other legs. Yeah,
I got some pretty good generators.
Yeah, I bet you do.
I got some pretty good ones.
But yeah, because that was the other question that I was going to ask you. So it's like, which one was your favorite and which one was the most effective, which I guess is the same thing. It's tetrapods.
Yeah. I think that's what pulled me towards them, because I think a big thing too is towards the start of the game, I was all tank all the time. And then I started going up against, the cleaner and the spider and later bosses that I'm not going to bring up. And all of a sudden it was like, man, this beef is good for PvP, but I need some fucking mobility right now.
Yeah.
And especially the heaviest tank. Like the chatty stick, like the wheelchair legs, you're going all over. But the regular tank, you're like, like you are the opposite of mobility. I mean, to be fair, you max that thing out. I think I have one build that's just like an AP boat, and it's like 19,000, I think. So like you have the health, but it almost feels bad because you get hit a bunch, and you're like, let me heal. And you use like all three of your heals, and you're like, okay, I'm back to full. Like,
exactly. That was something that people will probably hear me say a lot in my LP is just like, dude, these repair kits, they ain't doing nothing. Are they healing the enemies? Because they're not healing me. That's for damn sure. So like I'm putting a lot of points into.
You're on a lightweight with like 10,000 AP, and you heal, and you're like, half my health is back. Good. And you get low on a tank, and you chuck 3, and it's like, all right, you're like 75% full. Like, fuck.
Yeah, exactly. That is the thing.
How much health?
And you get hit, I feel like, way more often because there's no invincibility frames, right?
No.
There's no Y-frames at all.
Yeah, it's all dodge focused. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like if you don't want to get hit, you can't be there. So I'm trying to like dodge out of the way. And with the tank, is just like, Jesus. I know I'm not the best player in the world.
I will say, like, so while PvE, they start to struggle. In the arena, the tank is obviously very aggressive still. Just because you're like, I don't care. I'm gonna gun you down and shrug off the damage you're doing.
There's only been, I think up until this point, there's only been like 2 builds that have gotten me to like, okay, I actually need to focus a little bit. Other than that, I just bully everything they throw at me. And like I said, I just finished B rank now. But everything they threw at me with the tank, I'm just like, whatever. Just go right through it. Not even a problem. Barely feel it.
Tanks in 1v1, I don't think it's going to be meta. But for like new player versus new player, tanks are going to feel very oppressive, very dominating. Yeah. And it's when we're up against, you know, like a reverse joint that's actually jumping all over. Because like a lot of the bunny hopping and the fast dashing, the quick turning, a lot of the arenas, even as you move towards the late game arenas, I feel like the movement on ACs wasn't as strong as it could have been compared to like the shit I saw in the PvP event. Like tracking enemies for the most part, especially on mouse and keyboard, I'm like, what's hard lock? You know, I don't need this anymore. In fact, I would go as far as to say on mouse and keyboard, the only instance I will use a hard lock is if I'm trying to get a kick. Because since the kick just goes straight forward, it's very easy if here's the AC to be like, I kicked you, and zip right past it like a shitty joust or something. So that's a technique I'm still getting used to, is like boost lock and then going for the kick on PC. But aside from that, like I don't, because when I played on the controller, I ended up using hard lock a lot. I was using it, you know, the bosses, I was using it constantly. I think a big thing.
Here's
default too. Default your controller sensitivity I think is like 6 or 7, and so now I'll use controller at 10 just to try and keep track of stuff. But even then, like, dude, compared to using that joystick, a mouse, and you're just like, you're not going fucking anywhere. You're right in my frame.
They're not doing crossplay in this game, so I think that's actually a good choice because PC players will absolutely destroy.
Oh yeah, dude. Mouse and
forget about
mouse
it.
And keyboard is so fucking good. It's so good. It feels super natural. It feels like how it was always meant to be honest. And I have it set up where, so I have like the 502. So you know my 1 gun, my 2 gun, and then little side buttons on my shoulders. So I do all the controls on the keyboard, all my firing is on the mouse, and it's just fucking super smooth.
Okay, that's good to hear because that's usually something that people always ask me, and I don't know because I don't really play mouse and keyboard. I always play controller whenever I can, so it's super smooth. They did a good job with it.
Yeah, especially when you consider like the relative jank of the Souls games with keyboard.
This exactly. Like, people are going to be wondering about that.
Dude, it feels like it was made by a different group. Like it fucking works. And you have your custom PC controls, so I changed up everything. Like originally QE are your shoulders, and I swapped it to quick boost is now my Q, and then E is my shift control. So like I can double tap Q to get my kick, or if I hit QE really fast, that's like my pulse or my assault or whatever. And then, you know, everything else. Shift is dodge, space is ascend.
You double tap Q to get your kick?
Because it's assault boost. You know how when you're assault boosting, you tap the left stick in again?
No, wait. Assault boost. Never mind. For a second, I thought you were talking about quick boost on Q. Because that's right.
No. Quick boost is shift. Assault boost is Q. Shift control is E. I moved scan. Scan was V. And heal is C. So I moved scan up to R so I don't accidentally heal while trying to scan ever.
Yeah.
So and that's been good. For a while I had quick boost on space and rise on shift. And the more I played, I ended up switching them back to where quick boost is shift and rise is on space, and I'm liking that.
And here's a cool thing for people that are wondering, because usually people ask me this too. Can you completely remap all the buttons? You can on console. As a matter of fact, they give you like 3 custom configurations that you can save if you want to, or you can copy.
You can on PC as well, but you got to click the right spot. Which I know this sounds dumb, but so on PC there's a column for keyboard and there's a column for mouse. And I was like clicking the mouse column and then hitting the keyboard, nothing was happening. And I was like, what do you mean I can't? This is fucking stupid. What do you mean I can't put my missiles on You know, because or it was when I was rebinding.
What do you mean
my,
I can't
my
bind my whole keyboard to my missiles and roll my face all
Yeah.
over?
Well, so I was trying to put the missiles on the mouse, and I'm like, that's so weird. Why can't I bind these? And then I realized it's because I was clicking in the keyboard section and not the mouse section. And I was like, oh, okay, I can use my side buttons. This works.
No, but in console, it's super easy for people that are concerned about commands. You straight up, like, they give you, I don't even know how many. I think there's like 3 or 4 default controller setups that you have, and you go into the custom options, and then you can select which of the defaults you want to copy over. So you copy a default, just have a base, and then you go in and you can change literally every key binding. So you'll be good there. Because I know that there's probably gonna, and here's an interesting thing, because like on controller, you have quick boost on square, or on the case of Xbox, it would be X. So you have quick boost on that, and that quick boost is essentially dodge. So a lot of people might feel tempted to swap that over to like circle or B. I'm not sure if you guys are actually going to like that, because like on square, it feels way more natural for some strange reason. I can't even explain it, but like the second I was like, oh, let me just do circle for dodging, like you know, like I usually do in Souls games. But
it does.
You don't want
it's because your thumbs are naturally like this.
Yes.
So you're already on X to jump, and so the dodge is right there. I actually found having back buttons, like when I was playing, I had
paddles.
This little paddle was my dodge. Instant fucking advantage, because you're not taking your finger off the thumbstick to dodge at all.
Oh yeah, that's good.
So like I mean you can do it with like some kind of fucking claw grip, but anybody that has back paddles is gonna feel fucking good.
Back paddle people are gonna be eating good. But yeah. So what is your favorite weapon? You have to pick one. Hopefully not spoilery. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say I can't share that information.
God damn it! Spoiler. Okay. Closest thing from the weapons that we can talk about.
Closest out of the weapons we can talk about.
Let's say just stuff that you get on chapter 1.
Fucking nothing. What's your favorite poverty weapon? Out of the various poverty gear, probably the plasma rifle.
Yeah,
it's incredibly consistent. The AOE
plasma
is really good.
Is very good.
Yeah, it takes out MTs with ease. It has a really high range on it. I think it has an effective range at like 300, because that explosion doesn't go off until it connects. So you can even skill shot stuff that's out of your lock-on range with it.
I've struggled with some of that skill shotting stuff, not because I missed the target, but because it will
visual. Because I mean, it's like trying to aim behind your back. You know, you're like, am I? No. There is no like scope in, so you're like trying to line up and hit something.
No, but like I'll see the bullet go exactly where I want it to go, but it will like expire before it hits the target.
Oh yeah, well I mean there is like a maximum range.
Yeah.
Whereas lasers don't really care about that as much. I mean,
bazooka doesn't care either. Bazooka's just like, oh, my rocket goes until it goes boom. It's great.
Yeah. Well, except so I actually when I was crawling through Climb the Wall, you know, at the start, there's that big dude up top that's firing shit at you. And I'm like, I wonder if I can kill this. And I got close enough that I actually realized that that's the boss. At the start of the mission, you know how you gotta run in?
I only done that mission once, so I don't remember.
Right, well, at the very start, there's just flashes and something firing a bazooka at you from way up top. That's the boss for the level. And you can't hit him from down there. I got close enough and was firing bazookas, and they fade out. There's like an invisible wall. But I was like, how do I kill this guy? And once you get close enough, he's not shooting at you anymore. But I was like, oh my God, I got close enough to like, you know, like look, and I was like, that's the fucking boss. I'm like, that's so cool. He's just up there trying to, you know, defend the wall before we get up top. That's neat.
It's like the dude that's on top of the tower in Bloodborne just gatling you down.
Yeah. It's like, oh, okay, I see you up there. I'll be up there soon. Don't worry, pal.
Yeah, I'll see you. I'll see you in just a couple of minutes. But yeah, the other thing that I could ask you about, I guess, because there's not a whole lot to talk about. Like in terms of recommendations, I feel like this is one of the easiest recommendations of 2023. Like if you've seen the gameplay and it looks like it's something you're interested in, you're gonna love it. Just don't go into it expecting like Mecha Souls or something, like, because it ain't that.
I mean, honestly, on a personal level, it's my new game of the year.
It's your new game of the year, straight up. I still need to play considerably more. It's definitely on the top.
I'll say this: when I was at, I don't even know if I hit or I know I hit this time. When I was at 73 hours on Final Fantasy, I was already like, this has been good, but this is a lot. I'm at 74.3 hours on Fires of Rubicon, and I'm like, okay, when this podcast is done, we're jumping back in. We're doing some more. Like, I would right now.
I think a lot of it has to do potentially with how fast those missions go, because nothing in the game, at least for me. I mean, there's a couple of missions that I was like, okay, I didn't like. A couple of like the mission with the invisible dudes. I was like, man, screw this mission. I hate this.
Bro, play through it, but with like a really fucking good scanner, and you can find all of them in advance, and you're like, hey there, you little fuck. Boom.
Yeah, I need to get that. But like, before you get that scanner, that mission is annoying. But it's like there's been maybe 1 or 2 missions that I was like, this was kind of annoying. But out of all of the other ones that I've done, you can go through a mission like super fast and have pretty much a good time. So
my current ranking, I would put this. I personally, I think Baldur's Gate 3 is gonna win Game of the Year. But for me, at least, I would do this, Baldur's Gate, Final Fantasy. That would be my current 2022 tier list.
I don't know.
But we still got a lot, man. We got Liza P. I think Liza P has a good chance at Indy. I think this is gonna win Best Action Game of the Year.
You mean Armored Core?
Yeah.
I think it definitely deserves it out of all of the games that I played in terms of action.
I'm trying to think what else has been action centric that's come out this year. Nothing fucking comes close to the adrenaline vibe that this game gives.
The problem with this game potentially winning Game of the Year is that I feel like when it comes to Game of the Year discussions, a big portion of the discussion is a popularity contest, because you have all of those mainstream outlets and stuff like that, and they've been better about letting some more independent people in there in the last couple of game awards. But like usually it's the big mainstream outlets that have the most voting power. And, this is a lot more niche than what they're used to.
No, it is, which is why I don't think it's going to take full Game of the Year. Whereas Baldur's Gate, on the other hand, is, I don't think it would be too far to say it's a CRPG masterpiece.
Yes.
Yeah, it is a, like, even if you don't like turn-based combat, the amount of decisions and freedoms and flexibility in that approach
of that
game, it's literally D&D. It's D&D. People that have always been like, oh, I really wish I want D&D, but it's so hard to get into. I wish it was like a video game. It is. It's Baldur's Gate 3.
There's actually been one scene that I've seen, which is the ending of Act 2, that I was not a big fan. I was like, oh man, I felt so taken out of it in that scene. But other than that, the game is absolutely excellent.
Are we allowed to discuss Baldur's Gate?
No. I just want to say there has been something that has kind of like put a minor stain in my experience of Baldur's Gate 3. But other than that, I've been adoring it. Dude, playing as a bard is like, you have any idea how many bosses I just convinced to kill themselves? Just off themselves. Okay? Straight up. Like, listen, there was this one dude, I straight up convinced him to stab himself in the chest. And he killed himself. He's like, and died.
I'm currently trucking through Act 3, and so I'm playing Dark Urge, and I just came up to like the culmination of that storyline, and I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, I want to do Dark Urge at some point.
I'm like, I don't know what to do here, because I've been playing a certain way, but
they're very good about giving you a lot of moments like that too.
Yeah, I ended my stream at like the most pivotal moment of the Dark Urge playthrough, and everyone was like, "What the fuck? You can't leave now!" And I'm like,
"Yes, I can.
See you next time."
I can do whatever I want. You can't stop me.
Biggest fucking cliffhanger.
So out of but going back to Armored Core 6, just kind of like as a wrapping point, out of all of the crazy ass builds that you've done, actually, before we even get there, I mean, we've both said that there's a ton of different playstyles. Do you think that that can be overwhelming for a lot of people? Because I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be coming in for like completely fresh, like they've never played the game.
No, I don't think so. I think a big thing. I already got like a video prep that's going to explain, like, here's how I build a mech, here's how I test a mech, and I think that's the big thing. I think once people get into the game and they start testing stuff mechanically, I think that's where people are going to I think it's going to click. I think once you Because I mean, the first time you look at assembly, it definitely seems overwhelming. But when you actually do it and then you test,
because I played
I
played 5, I did not feel assembly was overwhelming at all. Because just from the little that I played of 5, I was just like, okay, these are the arms, these are the legs, these things affect carrying capacity, this thing affects that, blah, blah, blah. And you instantly just start going through and then you're like, okay, if I equip this, then I'm too heavy, so I can't do this. And you just start messing with it until you figure it out. But I think that people that come in completely blind, they're going to struggle a little bit. But, you know, that's why you're going to be working on those guides for people. I'm sure you got like a bunch of plans for
I have a 35-minute long assembly guide that goes into building an AC from scratch, figuring out how to compare parts, taking it into testing, doing arena tests with it, and then finally settling on how to finalize your design.
But the thing that I wanted to ask you to wrap up is, what was your favorite playstyle? Again, I know that there's weapons that we're not talking about because we want people to like discover those and all of that stuff. But
probably Stagger Burst.
Stagger Burst, is that like shotguns?
Just using certain weapons that build up stagger, and then a follow up. Discord has taken to calling it the Cowboy Blast. The Cowboy Blast uses weapons that I can't discuss. They were talking like same thing over in the Armor Core Discord. Like, what's been your favorite playstyle? And I'm like, I can't talk about it. We'll just call it the Cowboy Blast. And it involves staggering and then doing like an instantaneous like 6,000 plus damage.
Now that I think about it, we've barely even talked about the stagger mechanic, which is something that
I like it. I like it a lot. Direct hits and stagger.
That is very different from previous Armored Cores. That's probably one of the biggest changes in combat, I would imagine.
It's the gimmick of this one.
Yeah, the defining characteristic.
Yeah.
So for anybody that doesn't know how stagger works, the idea is that there's a stagger gauge on top of an enemy, almost like, I hesitate to say Sekiro, but it's like the easiest comparison.
No, it is. It's very similar. It's very similar to the poise bar in Sekiro. There's two stats. You have impact is what dictates this, but you have stagger and then you have a cumulative stagger. A cumulative stagger will stay on the bar for a short period of time, roughly like 3 to 4 seconds. Whereas you have like immediate stagger or burst stagger, if you will, and that's what's going to chunk the bar on up. And then if you're not continuing to attack, it goes back down to a cumulative stagger. But so the idea is basically pushing, when you push the target to where stagger finally goes off, they become vulnerable and then they can take direct hit damage, and then weapons have different direct hit modifiers. So that's why like the pile bunker can hit insane amounts of damage on direct hit. But so that's kind of the combat loop here, is you're building enemies up to pop that stagger, and then you have a window of opportunity to do large bursts. But that's what's interesting, is do you keep that pile bunker on your back? Do you wait for that direct hit? Or are you just constantly aggressive, constantly contributing to it? I mean, the laser build I have, for example, that doesn't even really focus around stagger. It just aims to penetrate defenses and do raw damage to health. Frequently, I'll kill stuff before even staggering it. Or in some cases, I do stagger it and I just keep shooting and its health is just like... So it's a very interesting mechanic, and seeing how people are going to either play around it or not play around it is going to be, I think, a defining characteristic of this game.
Yeah, because you can make builds essentially that don't necessarily play to the strengths of stagger and have just continuous damage. But me personally, I've been always trying to shoot for big stagger. The problem is, because I'm so freaking gung-ho, a lot of times I'm like, stagger! And everything, it's on cooldown. Like reloading weapons and shoulders are reloading. It's like, no! So I'll start ramming them with kicks. It's like, die!
The worst feeling in the game is when you get the stagger, you do a charged bunker, and it whiffs because you weren't close enough. You're just like...
Yep.
Your stomach drops, and then you're just sad because you're like... All that time, I tanked so many bullets to the face to build that up. I was about to one-shot you, and it missed you by like a meter. And now I am a sad boy and getting caught with a bunch of rockets to the face again.
That never happens to me. No.
Yeah, I bet.
Because usually by the time I do the direct hit, the pile bunker's on cooldown anyway. So
tank kicks can actually do a surprising amount of damage.
Oh yeah, I'll one-shot MTs with tank kicks.
Yeah, tank kicks are very good.
Yeah, I love them. It's straight up everything is like roadkill to me, unless it's like a big enemy. Everything is roadkill, and a lot of arena kills and fights that you do, even in campaign, I will finalize the target with a tank kick, and it's so good. It's brutal.
Yeah, tanks. It's if you're hyper aggressive with tanks, it's pretty brutal. Just like constantly rushing at people, trying to get the tank kicks off while you're filling them full of bullets. Or
dude, whenever you get like an AC and for whatever reason they move to the wrong spot and you were charging and you'll put them up against the corner.
I've actually had the only downside with being hyper.
Like,
dude, I've been so aggressive with tanks that I'll get up on targets, I'll kick them, and then I'll go to fire the bazooka, and it's like, here's their head, here's my bazooka, and it just whiffs because I'm too aggro.
Too close.
I'm like, well, that didn't work out.
That happens so often.
I know. I'm like, I needed this to be in your mouth, not going past your head. We're not looking for hearing damage here. We're trying to kill you.
Yeah. But that's happened to me a lot as well. It's just so brutally satisfying. That's why I can't really get, like, whenever I do the B-roll for my review, I've already created like a spring chicken loadout and a tetrapod loadout. And I know that the gameplay on those two loadouts is going to suck because I have no idea how to play them.
I haven't played them at all. Spring chicken's pretty fun. I like spring chicken. I use that on quite a few builds.
I like Tetra. Tetra is fun. The hovering on Tetra is very, very powerful.
It's incredibly satisfying.
The spring chicken though, because like in there's that one mission that I was telling you about, the invisible dudes. There's a one point where you're just like hanging off a wall super high, and if you're a tank, that's terrible because you have almost no verticality. And so I'm like,
I was playing it with the tank. I want to say that when I finally got it, I waited for them to shoot, and then just aimed at that spot and just was like, bazooka go. I just waited for them to get staggered, and then I'd walk up and be like, you little shit, and start pounding on them.
See, that's the thing, because at that point, because I was still very new to the game, I did not use skill shots at all. So I would always be like, if it's not locking on, I'm not shooting. And, I probably should have tried that. But because of that, I went in there with like the spring chicken, and I was like, oh, this gives me the most verticality. And then I jump up, maximum jump, and I still couldn't hit them. And I was like, bro, this sucks. Yeah, and then I went with the tetrapod. But they're really high. Like they're high enough where it's even hard to reach there with the.
Well, so the thing is, you need to use assault boost anytime. That's what people didn't get during the PvP event. Is the start of the match, I would look up, I would assault boost.
Oh no, I saw that.
And then I would go into hover, and then the following match. Well, even on that match. Like whoever with the tetrapod was, they were trying to hover up towards me, and I'm like, you don't have the energy for this, and I would just berate them with missiles. And then on the follow-up match, one of them tried to do missile boat, but the same thing, they were trying to hover, and I was just like, you're not getting the fuck away from me. just assault boost and rush them down. So that's a big thing. Is people.
So can spring really chicken rely on assault boost higher? No.
So what you would do is you jump, and then you would hit your assault boost.
Oh, okay.
The whole thing with reverse joints is you're gonna have less stability than your bipeds, but you're jumping. And then in PvP, it's about the bunny hopping. It's just you bouncing around so that the FCS is like trying to track you and failing, mostly failing. Yeah.
Unless you're on PC and then you just manually aim and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, PC is definitely gonna be rough for people.
Yeah. But guys, Armored Combat. Jesus Christ. For some reason, I've been constantly saying Armored Combat.
Armored Come.
No, it was like, it's not the first time that I've made that one. Armored Combat. No, Armored Core 6. Definitely friggin' amazing. I think both of us highly recommend. By this time, you'll probably have reviews from both of us up. I mean, mine's going to be like review in progress. Yours is going to be much more complete because you've actually
I need to do mine, but I keep getting distracted with.
You still haven't done it? Because we're recording this in advance, and me neither. I still haven't done mine. I need to do that one. I need to do my beginner's guide for the few tips that I have for people.
Every time I think about doing it, I'm like, yeah, but what if instead I
just played the game? Yeah, what if I just kept
playing it? I finished my Let's Play. Now I'm doing my second playthrough. I'm just doing on my own. I'm like, you know what? Today I finally came to terms. I'm like, you know what? I'm not fucking recording any of this. I don't care if I fight a boss for the first time. I'm doing this for me. I've waited 10 years.
That is very good. It's a really good feeling when you do that. Yeah, when you do that, it's this one's for me. Feeling.
This one's for me.
It's worth it too because the game is so good. The one of the things that I do like, we usually have as content creators, there's a lot of times where you're like, oh, I can't play this game unless I'm recording it. The good thing about this one is you can replay all of the other missions. So it's just like, oh, I feel like playing. I'm just gonna go replay one of the older missions and have fun in that and level it up and try out different builds and stuff. And that's also very. So it's a really good approach. I love the structure that they've done with it. I know that a lot of people are like, oh, it needs to be open world. It's like, no,
it would be fucking terrible.
no, it doesn't.
It would be fucking terrible. It would be the problem with open world Armored Core is what are you gonna find ammo caches all over? Like you'd be running out of fucking ammo constantly. And that you would just like, I feel like the world would lose because like the size of the scale of these levels is pretty big in some cases.
Yeah.
If it was just open world, I think it would be too much. It would just be like, building over here. It would turn into a fucking Ubisoft game. It would just be going to buildings looking for chests and checkpoints. It wouldn't work.
I think that the kind of like shorter mission structure that they've done is the perfect point where there's a lot to explore, there's a lot to do, but if you just want to get in there, do your objective, get out, you can do that, and that leads to you just like retrying it, different configurations and doing all this stuff. It's really good. But yeah, guys, Armored Core 6 is friggin' amazing. Highly recommend from both of us. And any final words?
Tanko boom.
We'll see you guys on the next one. There'll be links to Cowboy's channel. He's going to be doing tons of coverage on Armored Core 6.
Endless coverage.
Endless coverage. Yes.
I'm doing shorts for the first time. I've been making shorts.
Hey, that's good stuff.
Trying it out.
We'll see how that pans out. We'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong. Stay safe. Peace out.